All right, students, welcome back. We're in week 3 and we're starting chapter 2. This is going to be a refresher on HTML and CSS for some of you. Most of you, I don't think, have had any HTML or CSS. I've told them to make that a prerequisite for this course several times, but they haven't done it. So this is not an HTML or CSS class. It's more JavaScript than anything. But I will do my best to make sure you know everything that you need to know for the course and to be successful in this course. When you first come into the course, it's gonna look like there's a lot of stuff to do this week. And there's a lot of stuff in here, but there's only 3 graded assignments. The self-test exercises, when you click on the reading, to do the reading, it'll take you to that chapter, and right here, obviously, read the chapter. Especially if you're not familiar with HTML5, they're going to cover a lot more things in the book than I'm going to cover in a video. Trying to keep it somewhat short, but these videos are always going to be long. But you can see the self-test exercises right here, and just submit a Word document, answer the question, put the question and the answer in a Word document, and send it in through Moodle, and I'll grade those. It's an easy 100. The only other things that are graded is the assignment, which I will cover, and a quiz in chapter 2. So make sure you do those. Up here, obviously the video that you're watching right now. This is a link to Notepad++. When you watch the videos for the Cengage videos, which are right here, you read the chapter, and then they have their own video, and here's the code if you want to follow along with the video. In that, he's on a Mac, and he uses a Notepad, and he uses a browser, and he's got lots of things up. I don't like to code that way. I will use Visual Studio, and I encourage you to do the same thing. That being said, I don't care how you get it done, as long as you turn in the right stuff. An HTML document is nothing more than a Notepad document with an HTML extension. So you can create them any way you feel good. I have included this Visual Studio link because that's what I'm going to be using. If you click on this link, it will take you to the download for that. Now, this is Visual Studio Community 2022. It's the newest version out. It is free, and you can do whatever you need on here. It's also good for other, if you want to code Python and all kinds of other things in Visual Studio. However, I have uninstalled my 2019 version, and I'm going to try and walk through the installation of the 2022 version just for your benefit. It is very different than the 2019. So if you have a previous copy of Visual Studio and you're comfortable with that and just want to use it, go ahead and do that. I wish I had. But if you click the link for Visual Studio, you will hit the download button, and it will start downloading in your browser. And as you can see, I've already downloaded it a few times, but click on the setup and run that. It'll say it needs to set up a few things. Just hit continue. Finally, at some point, you'll get this window here. Now you can add a lot of things to Visual Studio if you plan on using Python. If you want to use this for Python, Node development, .NET, C++, gaming with Unity, all kinds of stuff. This is all new. I'm not sure what most of the stuff does. Obviously, if you want to use this to develop other languages, that's fine. But in this course, we don't need any of that. The only other thing I will draw your attention to is the installation locations. I use a custom location for all of my programs. So if you do that, make sure you choose the correct location. If you don't, then you don't have to worry about that. And I'm going to leave the download cache the same and then hit install. If you didn't select any workloads, it's going to make sure that you intended not to select any, and I did, so I'm going to hit continue. And you may or may not get an error, depending on how old your computer is, that the operating system is not supported, like that. My computer is fully capable of running this. I don't know why it will the new stuff. They want you to upgrade to Windows 11, I guess. And I don't want to go to 11, so I'm still on Windows 10. All right, at some point it will finish, and you will get this window, and it's going to come up and I think ask you some questions or something. Keep going to my other screen. You can sign in, create an account. I'm just going to skip that. You can change your settings. I always use the dark theme, but obviously use whatever you want. And start Visual Studio. Once Visual Studio starts, it will pull up this other menu here. You can go ahead and close the installer. And this is Visual Studio. You probably won't have anything in this column here if you've never used it before. I've had several previous installations, so it kind of pulls that history file and looks. What I suggest we do here is minimize everything. You can close the download window and then just create a folder. We'll put mine right here on the desktop. It's going to be chapter 2. And inside chapter 2, I'm going to create 2 documents. Let's see. New text document. I'm going to call this chapter 2. Actually, yeah, we can change these names. .html. And then another new text document, chapter 2, and we're just going to change the extension to CSS. So now I have an HTML and a CSS file for chapter 2, and it's blank. It's in the chapter 2 folder. So when I open, I'm just going to tell it to open a local folder. Go to my desktop. I'm going to find chapter 2 and select that folder, and it will open a project with that folder and those files in it. Whole lot of stuff here. I don't like it. This is what's new. You can just close that out right here, and this will be Visual Studio. Now I hate the way it's set up. So if you're not viewing this in at least 1080 on YouTube, everything's gonna be really small and less, and there's not gonna be any detail. And I hate that for you. Watch on a big TV if you can. But if you can see these little lines here, this allows you to grab the window and move it. So you can move it around, and then you'll see all this other stuff pop up. So if you click on this, it'll set it to the top of the frame, or you can set it to the bottom, or to the right, or to the left, or this does kind of the same thing. You can make it full screen. It's really, I've seen this on something else, other software, but never on this before. So I like mine on the left. That's just where I like to put it. Put yours wherever you want. And then you can see the folder that I just created and the 2 HTML, the HTML and CSS file we created. If you double click, should open, I would assume. Yeah, okay, and it will open in the rest of the window. And this is how I like to operate. So I've got both of them open now. I got the HTML and the CSS open. Put my HTML on this side, CSS on this side. And this is Visual Studio. And this is how I will do all of my videos and all of my instruction in this. It's going to be a work in progress. I'm learning the software just like you are. So that is that. So to make sure I didn't miss anything, let me go back. That's Visual Studio, yeah. Read the chapter, watch their video, how they do it. Maybe you decide that you like the way he does it better, and you can use a browser and Notepad to do your assignments, and that's fine. The code to follow along with the video. Now he's going to create some code while he's doing the video. Here's the code if you want to follow along. It's just a download if you click on it. I don't know if it downloads or not. No, it'll just take you to Cengage where you can download the file. Oh, no, it'll take you to Cengage and then download the file. Anyway, I don't know why it takes you all the way there. So, the review assignment this week is a simple HTML document. All you need to do is type in this, like a heading 1 there, or a title, heading, a list within lists, nested lists, a paragraph that you use CSS to kind of center, and a table. It's super simple, but if you've never done any HTML, it's a good starting point. So I want your assignment to look just like this, okay? The colors, I don't care so much. You could use whatever colors you want in the CSS, but I want you to have, you know, the title, the headings, the list within lists, and your table. And the tables need to look like this. Now if you want to be creative with the CSS, just see what you can do with the borders, the colors, and all that good stuff. And to do that, your HTML lesson kind of starts now. So every HTML document has to start out with doc type. And you just say it's an HTML document. This lets the browser know that this is a document, an HTML document. And then you start your HTML code. HTML. So for every, and I apologize if you already know this, go ahead and skip to the next chapter. This is for folks who don't know HTML. For every bracket or tag that you open, you have to have a closing tag. So HTML, and then a closing tag starts with the backslash HTML. So this opens and closes. This is everything in between is HTML. And you have to have that at the start and beginning, or the start and the end of all your code. The next thing you want to put in here is on an HTML page is a header or head, the head of the document. Now, in the old version, 2019, it would just do it for you. I'm going to have to figure out the setting to get it to do it for you. When you create an opening tag, it'll automatically create a closing tag. It's not doing that. So we'll have to figure that out. So you've got your head, and then you're going to have a body. And the body is going to be just about everything in there too. Baddie. It's a baddie. So this is basically what every web page will have. If you want to copy and paste that in something, so you can just copy and paste it on all future assignments, you can do that. It will always be the same. Some things change quite a bit though. So in your head, you put a lot of things in the head of a HTML document. Like if you want to get into search engine optimization or SEO, as you may have heard it referenced, this is where you put a lot of keywords and that kind of thing, so that the web crawlers will see the keywords on your page in the header and kind of index that as a certain type of page, so it'll be found faster during searches. But here we're going to put the title. Remember, you need an open and a close. And in the title is going to be my first HTML5 document. And then we need to pull the style. Oh, I'm doing this in the CSS. I just noticed. I'm opening in the CSS. Make sure you're doing it in the right file. So the HTML is the content of the page. It's your words, and it's how you want it laid out, like the lists and all. The CSS makes it pretty, if that makes sense. So we want to be able to bring in, or we want the HTML file to look for that CSS file so that it can not only present the information that you want it to present, but make it pretty. And that includes like anything from fonts to indents to colors and lots of other stuff. We're going to keep it simple here though. And that's how you do this. We link the file, we link rel style sheet. And that's how you reference a CSS document. It's called a style sheet, or CSS stands for cascading style sheets. It's going to be a type of CSS or text / CSS, because it's just a text file. And then the href, that href is like a link to, or I don't know how else to explain it, but it links to the file, and ours is ch2.css. So if that is, if your CSS files are contained in another folder, you'd have to put the folder name and then the file name. Right now, we will do that later, but right now it is just in the same folder, so no biggie. And then you have to close this tag. It's not like not like the head or the body. It's you just put the slash and the little caret going the other way to close that line. So that's all we need for the head. Now, a div or a division, I don't know if it's even supposed to stand for division. I always thought it did, but a div is basically a box on the page. And if you look at the assignment, let's say we take this, open it, new tab. So you got a box. This teal box is going to be the body, and that's going to be the whole page. No matter how wide or small the monitor is, that's going to be the body. But I like to do what I call a wrapper. So I will take this gray box here. It's going to be a wrapper, and that will be about 960 pixels wide. That's something I've used for a while. Maybe I need to look at changing however wide I do it, but the wrapper will contain everything. So no matter how big or wide the monitor is, the body will shrink and grow, but the wrapper will stay about the same size. And to do that, let's just do this real quick. Where's Visual Studio? So right now, all we have is the body. So if I open that folder that I created earlier, I've got my HTML, my CSS in here, and this VS, that's just files for Visual Studio. You don't have to worry about what's in there. If I just open this in my browser, it's just a blank page. There's nothing there. So if I go back to Visual Studio and I go to my CSS, I'm going to reference the body of the document as far as styling, right? So I'm just going to type body, and then you got open and close squigglies, right? Separate those a little bit, and if you want to just change the color of the body, you call the body or whatever element you're calling, and then background is the keyword that tells it I want to place the color on the background, and then teal or blue or green or purple, red, whatever. Make sure you go to File and go to Save All, so it'll save both documents you're working on, just in case you change something. I always do Save All. And then I go back to the document in my folder and double click it again to open that HTML. The background is now teal. And if you'll notice up here at the top, I didn't save my document first. This just kind of gives the file name and the URL where the file's located, but this actually shows the title in the page, in the tab, so that I know my title's working and I know the CSS is working in my folder. Super easy. We'll go back to the HTML. We need to do, all right, so we do that wrapper. And you want to indent everything so that you know what is contained within which block. I think of all the divs are like blocks. And within the block you have some content. And I like to keep that separate. So div with an ID of wrapper. And then in that div, so because it's in the div, I want to indent it again. This is my first HTML5 document. Make sure you open and close your tags for your H1. Now this is heading 1. Heading 1 is big, 2 is a little smaller, 3 is a little smaller, 4, 5, 6, it just keeps going on. So it's just an easy way to make your font big or small without telling it you want it to be this big or this such. If I go to Save All, go back to my purple page, and all I have to do is refresh it, and there it is, my first HTML document. That is the heading 1. Super simple. You'll see in the other videos that you know, he doesn't have to keep going back and forth because he's already got the browser open and the text document taking up smaller portions of the screen. So that is one benefit to doing it another way. Now we have an H2, heading 2. I don't know why this is available on the web, but it does. And then we're going to have a paragraph in here. Reading this book to learn. Yeah, I know you can't read that if it's super small. I'll tell you what, instead of letting it run all the way off the page, you can actually hit enter here. I think this should work. And then let's say enter here. And because there is the browser ignores white space, so those enters to make it come down don't really do much. I think I'm saying that everything's changing all the time. Let's see what happens. I like to experiment. So this is you got your heading 1, heading 2, and a paragraph here. Let's save all, and then open a browser and see what happened. Okay, perfect. What we need to probably do, let's style the wrapper right now, because you can't see it. All you can see is the teal background. You don't even know that wrapper's there. So let's go back in here to CSS, and we're going to do a few things with the wrapper. So to call an ID, you want to use the pound sign or the hashtag. So body is body. You don't need anything to just type body in there. But if you give something an ID, you need to reference it in your CSS with the hashtag. And if you give it a class, you need to reference it with a period. We're not there yet. We'll talk about that later. Make sure you spell it right. Get your brackets in there. We're going to call the background gray. So it's a colon and then a semicolon at the end. Make sure you got those, because that will mess up all your stuff if you're not doing the right one. So color. So color will change the font. Sometimes it requires foreground instead of background, but color should change the color of the text on it. So we're going to make the text white. We're going to align the text to the center. You can do right, left, or center, and this is text align. We're going to make the width of the wrapper 960 pixels, and no, we're not going to do a height, but we are going to do a margin, and we're going to make sure that's on auto. And what that should do, this makes the box that the wrapper is in 960 pixels. So you should see a 960 pixel gray box that contains all the words that we already typed, and the margin auto keeps it centered on the page. And I'll show you. Oh, go to save. Make sure you save your stuff. Save all. Refresh. Now we have a 960 pixel wide gray box containing all the stuff in it. We did not give it a height, so it will automatically be the height of the whatever you have in it. Now let me just look at this. Why? Oh, okay. So H2 should be available. Okay, that's right. That's right. Okay. Just making sure it follows the assignment. And the margin auto. So right now I have it full screen, but if I take it away from full screen, and you can see how the wrapper moves inside the body. And this is why I do a wrapper. Depending on the size of the monitor or the size of the screen, it will change, but it will never get less than 960 pixels. So once it gets that small, it'll stop, and it'll just kind of keep going, and you lose half that page. But this lets it stretch and go. We're going to do a lot more with that later on. All right, what's next? We want to got to make a list here, And I'm not going to do the whole thing. I think you're all smart enough to figure that out. But so the devices, be running different operating systems. We're going to do an ordered list, right? So OL, not old. I'm going to give it an ID of list so that I can style it. And then the first list item is an Apple iOS. So you got to open and close your list item. Make sure you open and close your ordered list. And so this is how you do a list. Let's just say, let's just do this. Apple, say Google Android. So there's a list. This is an ordered list with 2 list items. And if I save all, go back to the page and refresh, now I have an ordered list. You see the 1 and the 2 over here, and these are the list items. I don't want them like that, so I'm going to have to change that CSS, right? So if I go into here, go to my CSS page, go to the ID of list, and my text align left. So what's happened, default is left. The default alignment is always to the left. But because I put the text align center in the wrapper, it wants to align everything in the wrapper to the center. But I don't want the list centered, I want it to left. So I have to do that. And when you're doing CSS, the very last thing that you write takes precedence. So if I did the list first and the wrapper second, it would still be centered. But since the list is after that, it should be to the left. And refresh, save all, do that. And now my list is to the left side. So there is a short list. I'm going to let you do the rest of it. But if you want to do a list within the list, you're going to need to do another list in your HTML. So you've got your list with this list items, but under this list item, I'm going to do an unordered list. So you got ordered list, and you saw the numbers. Ordered list is 1, 2, 3, 4. Unordered list, it'll kind of put a little dot next to it. So I'm going to do an unordered list with list items in it. iPad is one of the things that does Apple iOS. And it gets really tedious. I'm going to have to figure out where the setting is for finishing your brackets, but I will copy and paste. iPad, iPhone, iPod, touch, whatever. That's good. So now I have make sure you close out your unordered list. Now I have a list within a list. Save all, go back to your browser, refresh. List within a list, and you can keep going. I'm going to let you figure out how to do the rest of that and make it look like this. So you should have 4 items in your ordered list and several others in your unordered lists. The only other thing you have to do now is create a table. Same information. We're going to just use the table tag. Create a table, open and close those brackets. To do a table, we have table rows and then table data. So you're going to, in your first row, table row, table data. Let's do this. I'm going to make this a class. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see. May have to make it an ID, but table 1. You got your table row and table data, and it's probably best if it's not giving you automatic tags to go ahead and close them out so you don't forget. Open and close my table row and my table data. I always do the table data in the same thing because everything between that is table data. and we're going to do kind of the same thing, right? I think. Let me look back. Yeah, Apple iOS. So you should have, just like in the list, Apple iOS, and then iPad, iPhone, iPod Touch. So your table data, Apple iOS. And then you're going to have more table datas. You can actually do this as a table header too, but we're going the opposite direction. So like a table header, and then the information for that goes down. We're kind of going left to right, so we're going to do iPad, iPhone, and iPod Touch. I'm not sure I'm liking Visual Studio 2022. It's highlighting everything that repeats like it's a variable, and it's not. This seems like it's more for coding now than anything, but again, I guarantee you there's settings for all of this stuff, but I haven't. This is the first time I've seen it and used it, just like you guys. I want it to be genuine about it, I guess. I'm learning it right with you because I'm not used to this, so we'll see if we can figure it out, and if you have any questions, ask, and I'll see if I can figure stuff out in the meantime. Anyway, so we have one row of data and with 4 columns, or 4 columns. So if we save this, save all, and open up our thing, refresh it, we now have a table here. But you can't see that, can we? So we need to do a few things in our CSS. Now we need to make it pretty. The data's in there. We've got to make it pretty. So let's see, first off, if it will even reference the class. It should, but you reference a class with the period, table 1, and then let's see, background, yellow. And let's just see if that even works. Yep. Okay. Ooh, that is ugly. All right. So we have a class and we have an ID, and you can see how they're both referenced, and it works. I don't even want to make that like gold because that yellow's hideous. Can't read nothing. All right. So let's see what else we want to do. We want to put a border on there, or DER. And I do like this. This is not something I've seen before. Is that it looks like the wrapper list table 1, it looks like it recognizes that that is in fact an element in the HTML, and that's why it's like this. It does seem to, as soon as you finish texting or writing something that is an attribute of that, it turns it green. Like when I misspell broader instead of border, it shows white, and even if I put the semicolon whatever in there, it says, hey, there's something wrong. That's an indication of something wrong, and that's good. That'll save a whole lot of time later searching for misspellings, because there'll be a lot of them. So we'll do a, let's see, background border. We'll just do the margin auto. That way it will center the table. So the list will be all the way to the left and the table will be centered, I think. Let's see what happens. We'll start, save all, open your browser, look at your document, refresh. Yep. Okay. So now it's changed. So what we've just done, and we styled the whole table, the whole thing, and there's a border around the entire table. And if you want all the grid lines in there, then you're going to need to style the table data as well. So you can do that 2 ways. And again, if you just type table and put your little brackets in there, you see that it's blue. You'll notice it's blue, just like the body up here. That means that every table in the document will be styled the same way, which sometimes is fine. A lot of times you want uniformity, but sometimes you want to be able to style tables differently. And that's why we'd give them a class or an ID. So you can do all tables and then table data, or TD. So you style all the table data tags, the same way. This time we're going to keep it just like the class. We're going to style all the table datas within the table 1 class the same way. And we'll, matter of fact, I'm just going to copy and paste this border in here. Give it the same border. Padding. What padding does is it creates more space inside the cell away from the text. So the text will have 5 pixels, top, bottom, left, and right. And you can specify that too by just doing, let's say you just want 0, 5, 5, and 0. This 5 on the top, 5 on the sides, 0 on the bottom, I think. But we're going to do it all uniform. Just keep it simple, easy, nice. We're going to do color again. Remember, this is the color of the text. And we already have background, so we don't need that. So save all, go back to your document and refresh. So now you have kind of 2 borders here. Maybe we can take the, let's see, let's look at the assignment again. What does it look like? It's only got 1 border, not 2. So we got to figure that out. Let's take the border off the table. See what that looks like. And this is how you learn, right? This is how we, if you don't have any experience with this, I really hope that you are experimenting. So that just does around the table data. Oh, I know what we need to do. So if we do, there's an attribute called border collapse, and that should make it, if we do put the border back in to the table, and then border dash collapse, that way it doesn't have 2, it should just have 1. Let's see if that even works. Save all, open it back up. There you go. Now I collapse the border, so the top border for the table is also the top border for all the table data rows, and that's what the border collapse does. There are thousands of attributes. I don't know them all, but if you want something to look a certain way, Google it, and you'll figure it out. So that is the assignment. This is all you need to do. You actually have to do a little more. I want you to put in the lists like it's here in the picture and the table like it's here in the picture. I've shown you how to do it, or given you a very good start. You should be able to figure it out from this point. So that is all I have for this week. If you have any questions, let me know, and make sure that your assignments are done by 11:59 on the last day of the week, because I usually will try and grade them first thing Monday, and if it's not in, it's a 0. Send me an email if you got any questions. Thanks.